Hey, Katina.
Hi, Liz.
How's your week going?
It's been good. It's been busy.
Good. I would say it's been a terrific week.
Yeah, that's special. I love it. I think it's like dad joke, but millennial joke.
Thanks. I was pretty excited when I thought of it.
I'm proud of you for thinking of that.
Thanks. Millennial. Whenever somebody younger than you says that something's millennial, it's automatically an insult, but just kidding. I have major schadenfreude about all the fake rich people losing a lot of money this week, but that high is also then balanced out by knowing that ultimately this dip in our economy will continue to disenfranchise hardworking Americans and just ultimately strengthen the ruling class. So overall, it's a downer. But there was also a lot of positive this week. I feel like this week was a momentum shift. I'm a big college basketball person, and any fan will tell you that momentum is a powerful force. Sometimes when your team is getting beat and it feels like the other team is starting to pull out and run away with the victory, what do? What does the coach do? They call a timeout. You go back, you strategize, and then you have one of your big star players run a tried and true play. They hit a big three, then you get a big defensive stop, and then the crowd gets really involved and they get loud and boom, you're back in the game.
This is such a Villanova vibe of a conversation analogy.
I know. Sad Villanova wasn't in the tournament this year. That's a topic for a different podcast. But it really a momentum shift is very powerful. And that's exactly what we saw this week. Monday, well, let's back up. The month of March, I would say, was a bit of a timeout for Democrats. We had a lot of retreats, a lot of strategy sessions. We learned from our mistakes. We regrouped as a team. Then Monday, Senator Cory Booker, one of our star players, took to the Senate floor for a 25-hour speech to stand up to the Trump administration's dismantling of our government and our social safety nets. And I think we can all agree that was a big three. That was a three-pointer. It played well online. It pissed off Republicans. It broke through to people not usually dialed into politics. It was a show of force and leadership. And just an hour after he yielded the floor came our big defensive stop. Susan Crawford defeated the Musk-backed Supreme Court candidate in Wisconsin by 10 points. This is the political basketball equivalent. I'm losing my metaphor here, guys. This is the political equivalent of a stuff in basketball. It was an adrenaline shot, especially online. The mood was basically, Musk, you can't spend $25 million in a state level race and attempt to buy our democracy. Wisconsin said, not in our house. And they put up a big block. And then on Saturday was the moment the crowd went wild. Over 3 million Americans participated in 1,300 protests nationwide, organized by a coalition of over 150 civil rights, labor, and advocacy groups. And the point was to express our opposition to policies enacted by Trump and Musk, particularly concerning mass layoffs of federal workers and the dismantling of our government programs. This demonstrated our collective power, and it mattered. There's this thing called the 3.5% rule, and it refers to a theory pioneered by Erica Chenoweth, which states that nonviolent movements need the active participation of just 3.5% of the population to succeed in creating significant political or social change, including standing up to authoritarianism or fascism. And days like yesterday showed that we are very close to that consensus, or we're already at it. So to everyone who participated in this momentum shift this week, thank you for using your voice and using your influence. I truly believe that we are at a tipping point. So let's get into it. Let's demfluence. All right, I couldn't be more excited to welcome our guest this week, my friend and mentor, Virginia McGregor, the treasurer of the DNC, national co-chair of Women for Harris, and the woman behind my favorite quote that I use quite often, which is, "Don't worry, work." In 2015, Virginia McGregor was a mom sitting at her kitchen table, looking at her children and grandchildren and thinking, this man cannot be president and I need to do something. So she began raising and organizing for the Clinton campaign, breaking records and becoming a personal friend of HRC. And after that devastating loss, instead of backing down, Virginia doubled down, raising millions of dollars to elect President Biden and earning a position in the DNC leadership as treasurer. And during the 2024 campaign, Virginia was integral in leveraging new media and technology to fundraise and organize. She established the working relationship between the party and the affinity groups. She was consistently looking to innovate and lift up new voices and challenge the status quo. And as she enters her 5th year in her leadership role, she remains emblematic of the reasons that I am personally hopeful about the future of our party. And that's because the Democratic Party isn't this nebulous thing. The Democratic Party is all of us. It's hardworking people who care deeply about the future of this country and the well-being of their fellow citizens. Virginia and I met almost 10 years ago, and in that time, she has invested in me and guided me and shaped my career and, quite frankly, my life. And every week following our defeat last November, she would call me and ask me the same question, which was, when are you starting your podcast? So it brings me great pride to say, Virginia McGregor, welcome to Demfluenced.
Well, I am so excited to be here, and I'm so proud of you, Liz, for really stepping up and reaching out and speaking up so that people can, try to find some answers to the questions that they have. But I agree with you. It was a terrific week last week. And I think that when we win the midterms and take back the White House in 2028, they're going to talk about this past week as the turning point.
Yes.
For people getting re-engaged in our democracy. And knowing that it's on everybody, right? I always say when you and I talk, which we talk regularly, and people ask us, why isn't the party doing something like it's some, castle on a hill? We always say, look in the mirror. It's up to everyone. And I think that's what we saw this past week. People getting involved and stepping up and speaking out.
Yes. I love that. They will talk about this week. That gives me so much hope. You always know how to fire me up. So let's talk about you and your story, your journey. Tell us how you got here. What made you dive in? Kind of take us through the last several cycles and what that's looked like for you.
Well, look, I live in Scranton, Pennsylvania with my husband and 6 children, and I come from a big Irish Catholic family. And in Scranton, Pennsylvania, Irish Catholic Democrat is one word. And I know you know that, Liz, from all your friends here in Scranton. We're a very blue city surrounded by red counties. And my dad was a city councilman, and he did that for 16 years while raising 11 children with my mom. He lost his job at 55, had to start his own business with my mother, but they never gave up on their public service. And, it was a time when Scranton was losing its population. Coal had left, the dress factories had left, and we had to rebuild. And I never, ever saw my parents give up their hope and their determination that the Democratic Party and Democrats could get together, could be there for people, and could deliver for the people of our community. And so that really motivates me in these difficult times that we're going through. Like, do we really need these headaches? Yes, we do. And there are about 1 million things that people could have been doing this weekend, and instead they stepped up and they joined hands and said, hands off our democracy. And that's really what motivates me, is the sense of community, that knowing we could do this together.
Yes, absolutely. So something that you taught me early on is the importance of building community and building your network. So let's talk about relational organizing, because you are the Michael Jordan of relational organizing. So what is it, and how did you get so good at it?
Well, women are very social, right? We're social. We whether we have children or part of some other family, however you define family, every day you're going to work. If you have kids, you see people at schools, you're with groups all day long, all week long. And so when my first major campaign was Hillary Clinton's, I tapped into my network in Scranton of other moms and dads who wanted something better for their country than what Donald Trump had to offer. And that's how I stepped up and said, I can do this because I know that people just want to be asked to get involved and to do their part. And so relational organizing is just, looking what's right in front of you, and the people that you live with, you work with, you socialize with, that you see out when you're walking in your neighborhoods or dog walking in the park, and talking about the things that really matter to each other.
Yeah, I think it's an incredible way to build a community, to make friends. Like, I know that I kind of started meeting people through politics, through gun violence prevention here in Illinois before I even moved. I had grown up here, so I had like a little bit of a framework of people, but most of them I met through working on something that we both cared about. And then when it came time to organize and fundraise for the election, it was those same people that I had stood shoulder to shoulder with fighting for pieces of legislation that I then relied on to build a network of people. Our area is very blue, and it's a great area to fundraise, but that also means that it's kind of saturated with groups looking to fundraise as well. So you really have to like find the right people that are dedicated and wanting to stand out, and you really deepen these incredible relationships. And I think that sometimes people are like nervous to get out there and meet people and rely on people. It's very much that like, it takes a village kind of thing. I think a lot of times people are afraid to ask for help, but I think they're also afraid to ask their friends and their neighbors to get involved and to step up.
Yeah. And, an interesting point is back in 2015, when Hillary was going to run for president, up until that point, politics was really dominated, and specifically fundraising in many ways, by men, right? And women maybe stuffed the letters and did lit drops and made phone calls, but they really weren't at the table making decisions. And I think we saw a big difference when Hillary Clinton ran for president, that there was a place for women to get involved in campaigns. And we saw that in that campaign, there was a record amount of women participating in all levels of that campaign. And if you remember, Liz, I'm sure it's hard to forget that after Hillary Clinton lost, that's when a record number of women ran for office.
Yeah.
Run for something started, right? Record number of women in Congress, a record number of women across states that held senior positions, first-time governors, things like that. I think we've dropped a little bit, and we need to get that enthusiasm back, because once women get a seat at the table, they're never giving it up.
That's right.
Yeah, for sure. And I also think that, I can speak from my own experiences. I'm relatively new in this political world, but I've always been really politically engaged via, watching the news, talking to my friends about what's going on in the world. And that first jump of actually getting involved in politics was really scary. And, I think a lot of people feel like, how do they find their spot, especially if they don't have family members that have been involved in the political party for a really long time. And I guess I just wanted to take this moment to say, like, it is scary. It's going to be scary to get involved, but the alternative is way scarier. And there's a lot of people inside of these organizations that are looking for new young blood, essentially, to come and join. And every time I go to an event, it feels that way.
Yeah.
And so even though we want new people to get involved, whether you don't need to have a political background to get involved, I guess is kind
Absolutely.
of what
Absolutely. And I think I agree so much with what you're saying about it being scary, especially where we find ourselves in this part of our country's history. Yeah. It is a very scary time, even for myself, who has been doing this quite a long time, and I live in a community that's Democratic. These are very frightening times, but that's what our opposition wants us to feel. And I think if we remind ourselves that when you do something this important and this historic, it's going to be scary for all of us. And I think, just harking back to this weekend with the marches and the rallies, is that you can find community so you don't feel alone.
Yeah, totally. I actually was talking to some friends that are not really that involved in politics, but they went to the protests in Chicago at Daley Plaza. And they said that it was so empowering to be in a crowd of 20,000 other people that feel just as afraid and not knowing where to start as they were.
Yeah.
And I think that because they're like always doom scrolling on their phone, right? Everyone's doom scrolling all the time. And even though you're probably in your own echo chamber of people also feeling doom, to be in real life with people. Like, obviously what we're doing here is the impact of social media, and that is so endlessly important. But being able to touch grass with people in your community, I think that I hope that we continue to do events like this that are in real life, because it feels more real than in your phone.
Yeah, absolutely. We're going to, when we get into our current events, we're going to talk more about the protests yesterday. But I had a lot of people reach out to me and say, does this really matter? Is this worth going? And is this worth investing in? And not only does it matter because you are part of a collective and we show this collective power, and you know, it's like if everybody said, well, what is one more person? It's the same thing about like voting. Like, my vote doesn't matter. It does. You showing up matters just like your vote matters. But I think it can also be a real personal turning point to people. In 2017, when there was the Muslim ban, it was early on in the Trump presidency. Myself, my husband, and our friends from growing up were at an event, like a charity benefit, and we were in black tie, and we had just finished the event, and we all got this notification on our phone that people were being held at JFK. We were living in Manhattan at the time, so we heard that people were, you know, just a few miles away being detained and held because of their religion, race, everything, background. And this was wildly unconstitutional. And we needed to show up and make our voices heard. Taxis and Ubers refused to pick up as like a show of solidarity. And so we took the subway out to JFK in our, like, we put sweatpants on under our dresses and like went out there and stood in the cold from like midnight to 3 a.m. And I was like leading people, singing "This Land Is Your Land." And it was truly a personal turning point for me, that I was like, I can't just be a voter or an occasional participant in democracy. Like, this is a real moment here, and I need to do something more. I think that year is when I first went out to Scranton for one of your many political events that you guys have hosted. But it was a real, like, this is something different. So I hope when I look at those crowds, I think about all the people that are having one of those JFK moments that I had in 2017, like a real awakening and a shift in their spirit. But I will also say that since that time, it hasn't always been easy. There's bumps in the roads. Obviously, there were defeats that we faced. Like, there's this trend on TikTok that's like, what's your favorite horror movie? And my favorite horror movie is thinking about our breakfast at the Conrad on the morning of November 6th. Like, I'm just sobbing, and Virginia and her husband are sitting there, and like the waiter is pouring us coffee, and I'm just sobbing. And she's like, it's gonna be okay. Like, you were like, we live to fight another day. So when there are bumps in the road, a loss, a personal setback, even if it's not an electoral setback, like you're trying to do this, and it's hard. It's not always easy to organize and get involved. And then also the we lose. Like, there are some things that we can't control. How do you find that inner strength? You've now done this several times. How do you pick yourself up and keep going?
Well, let's just say we are truly in uncertain times. So this is a test for all of us. But, when you talk about the Muslim ban in JFK, just think how different that was from the flight that went to of the Venezuelan illegal immigrants, supposedly, although there were a couple legal immigrants on that flight to El Salvador. The Muslim ban was announced, right? Trump did not have total control over Congress. So United States senators showed up at that airport. My own Senator Bob Casey, was in tails from a dinner and showed up at the airport to fight that and stand. This time, there is no warning. We find out afterwards. Yeah. Right? And that's the most frightening thing, is that there is no rule of law and Congress is mute. So our Constitution is designed for Congress to be the real gatekeeper, with the judiciary being a backstop. And however, all the rules have changed on his own because of a permissive Speaker of the House, Mike Johnson, and Republicans in Congress. So this is a time of grave danger and more worries than before. Because last time you thought the system would work, and I think there's a lot of doubt in our system right now. So where I find my strength is a couple things. I think about my parents and all they lived through. My father leaving his widowed mother to go in the United States Navy for 6 years. 6 years.
Wow.
As so many veterans did during World War II, and he was in the invasion of Normandy. I think about my mother raising 11 children. And, I have 6, and I think that's exhausting. The rules are still the same. You got to get them to adulthood, right?
Yeah.
And I often think of my parents and what they would do. And they lived through a Great Depression.
Yeah.
And they didn't have as much technology and advancing as we do. And then I look at my children, and my grandson, he came home the day after the election, and he said to his mother, came home to school, and he's 9, he's in 3rd grade. And he said to his mother, "Is Mimi going to go to jail?" And my daughter Grace paused and said, "Oh my God, why did you say that?" And he said, "Because that's what the kids in school said, that Donald Trump is going to arrest all his political enemies and put them in jail. And isn't Mimi one of those people?" And so Grace brought him up to my house, and she, of course, said, No, but come on, will you up to talk to Mimi? And I said, through all of history, bullies try to convince you that they're in charge and they want to scare you. And I said, Mimi is not a coward. And I said, I do this hard work. I said, because these are my values, and I want to leave the world better than I found it for your mother and for all my kids and for my grandchildren. And that's truly what our parents did for us, no matter what the hurdles are. And then being able to find this community in the Democratic Party and in groups like what you're doing has just given me, a real sense of joy that I'm not doing this alone.
Well, that made me very emotional. I'm having Conrad flashbacks. I'm just sobbing as Virginia's talking.
Well, think about what this is doing to young people.
Yeah. And that's it. Like, she's not going anywhere.
Yeah, right?
Yeah. We have to stand up. Wow. Okay. So circling back to something we kind of started talking about at the beginning about the Democratic Party, Ken Martin, our chair, said that the definition, our great chair, said that the definition of insanity is doing the same thing again and expecting a different result. And I feel that he is projecting strength and willingness to challenge the status quo and do things differently. So can you talk about some of the changes the DNC is making, the People's Cabinet, and some of the other big initiatives that we're seeing?
Well, look, he hit the ground running and said that the Democratic Party is not based in Washington. It's getting out of Washington. And he has crisscrossed the states and making sure that people know that their party is showing up for them. Ken Martin comes from the state party infrastructure. He was chair of the State Party Association. That's the bread and butter of our democracy, are the state parties, the county parties, the city parties, right? Where people come out of their homes after work and get together and organize. And, the only way through this, Ken Martin says, is by organizing. So there's so many people out there that have their dream candidate for the next presidential election, right? Maybe it's a governor of your state or my state. Maybe it's a football star. Maybe it's somebody from Showtime. Like, we don't know. And everyone has their ideas, but none of that matters if we don't organize. And the metric for organizing is winning.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. And so we have to start winning. What we haven't mentioned so far is, of course, Cory Booker's great speech. And then, the tariffs really getting everyone in the country's attention. And then the great, hands off. But that big win in Pennsylvania, when we won that state Senate seat in a community that Donald Trump had won by like 38 points, that Thaddeus Stevens, the great Republican, is from that district, right? Wow. And yet we took that back. A Democrat hasn't won in 57 years, I think they said.
Wow. That's a huge
And yet
seat.
we won that seat. And we also want a state representative seat to absolutely consolidate our majority in the House. We're still fighting for the majority in the Pennsylvania Senate, but that is really important for a battleground state like Pennsylvania. And then just a few days later to win the best of them all, the Wisconsin State Supreme Court race that Elon Musk, tried to win. As someone said, he should have just bought the state of Wisconsin. It would have been cheaper.
It would have been cheaper.
So, I mean, look, when you talk about what are we doing different, we know that we have to win every race from the school board to the state Supreme Court. And then we have to win, and we have to make sure there's an election for the midterms and that everyone's vote is counted. Because, I know this is something that bothers women everywhere, and they may not even know it. But Donald Trump signing another executive order bypassing Congress for the proof of citizenship that he is now demanding happens for all federal races. There's already lawsuits being filed, but women need to know. And like, I'm one of these people that my birth certificate, which is what he considers proof of citizenship, and what he wants you to bring on election day, has to match your current ID.
That's the SAVE Act.
The SAVE Act.
Correct?
Yes.
Yeah.
But he signed an executive order. So he didn't wait for the SAVE Act to be ratified in all the states. He signed an executive order. And that's, with all that's going on, he's created a deliberate sandstorm so that a lot of people aren't actually tracking all of the actions that he's taking that have a huge impact on people everywhere.
Yeah, it's hard to nail down when it's a sandstorm or a shitstorm of constant unconstitutional actions and just dismantling of the federal government from the inside out.
Yeah, and
go ahead.
I was just going to say that I think this sandstorm that we're seeing, it makes people feel anxious, and it makes them feel scared. They don't know what's real. They don't know what's not real. And I think that translates into anger, and that anger is directed typically towards the DNC because they're trying to, figure out like who can I blame for this, right? Like, obviously we can blame all the people that didn't turn out in 24. We can blame all the 52% of white women that voted for Trump. Like, there's people that we can blame, but there's just this arbitrage of information that's being thrown at us, not being able to digest it, and then just being mad at the DNC is kind of the gist. So, I mean, what's your kind of response and thought process behind the anger that's being targeted towards the DNC right now?
Well, look, the day after the election, I wanted to quit too. We're all just devastated and looking for something to blame, right? However, we are a very diverse country, and I did not want to get mad at people that I love in my own family or my close friends that I know didn't vote the way I had hoped. We have to treat people like human beings, and we have to treat people with dignity, but we have to do things differently and know that everyone is welcome. I've had people say, well, maybe the Democratic Party's tent should be smaller, and absolutely not.
Right.
Yeah.
Absolutely not. We're never going to fall for that. But, what we're doing at the DNC is Ken Martin is totally focused on our communications operation. And that's not just throwing things out. It's bringing information in and being able to listen to people and reach out to Dem influencers like the two of you. And Liz has been a big help in that and getting that off the ground. We just announced our war room, and our war room's number one task is to fight disinformation and to be a fact checker on every network, every channel. And I'm not talking TV networks. I'm talking where people get their information, whether that's podcasts, whether that's radio, whether that's cable, whether that's news, whether it's Substack. We are going to be on everything. And we have to fight that disinformation. We know where it's coming from now. Remember, in 2015, Nobody believed in disinformation.
Right.
Nobody even acknowledged, even when we told them they didn't want to believe it.
Right.
Right. And so we're in a different environment now. And so much of our resources is going to just that. We started the People's Cabinet, as Liz just mentioned. On Friday, we announced that so many people have been calling for a shadow cabinet. You probably heard there was a post. I don't think it was with Pete Buttigieg's permission, but saying, why doesn't Pete Buttigieg just simply do a press conference every day to debate what's going on? It's a much bigger endeavor. And so we are calling on former cabinet secretaries to do just that. Starting with Martin O'Malley, who's going to be talking about Social Security. Robert Wright, the former Secretary of Labor, is going to be talking about economics. Heidi Hellkamp is going to be talking about rural, and it's going to grow from there. And that's going to make news. We're going to make news. We're going to fight misinformation, and we're going to do it every single day.
Yeah.
But it's incumbent on people to be aware and to know where they're getting their information. Liz and I talk about this all the time, is where do people get their news? And how can we share with them trustworthy places to get their news, right? So we're both big fans of Heather Cox Richardson.
We love her.
Right? But there's also Paul Krugman, who is a former economist at the New York Times, who retired and has more followers on Substack than he did at the New York Times.
Wow.
And every day,
baby.
Every day he writes about the economy. Never has it been more important, because all of Trump's actions can be seen through that prism.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
Those are great. And
that's good tips.
like the people.
Liz, where did the two of you get your news? I think people would be interested in that. What's your daily briefing?
My daily briefing is Sammy's morning announcements. So Sammy Bitches Media. I listen to the morning announcements, and Under the Desk News, I listen to her evening briefing every night. So I'm obviously, as the as the host of Demfluence, I get my news from trusted sources.
Well,
on
it'd be nice if you put a link in or posted that so people could actually find it.
Yeah, we'll put it in our show notes, and we'll put the ones that you mentioned as well.
I'm a big Mo News fan. I don't know if you're familiar with Mo News. He's Instagram and podcasts.
Yeah.
He's great. He started in like 2020, right when Trump was elected.
Yeah.
He has like 500,000 followers.
Yeah.
On Instagram now, he's growing.
I also think that this whole misinformation idea is really important. It's something that we've talked about a lot, that Cory Booker says, which is the internet is like if you have a room of 100 people and 95 of them are yelling the word lie and 5 of them are yelling the word truth. What are you going to hear? You're going to hear lie. So we need more people on the internet yelling truth. And
louder.
Right. And so we need more influencers. We need more people, more Democrats doing it at every level. There's so many different ways to put out political content online. There are straight journalists, like the ones that we just mentioned. Then there are political commentators. Think of those as like the people who would write an editorial in a newspaper. That's like Emily Amick, Motherhood for. Then there are also like organizers like Motherhood for Good and like Maya, who we had on last week. So there's all of these different like buckets. So it's important to follow a diverse array of them, but we need more. We need to lift up them and resource them. But we also need people to just like focus on all of the different pieces of the puzzle. That we keep saying that this is an ecosystem. They're all equally important and they matter. We need more people yelling the word truth, and that's how we're going to get to a position where we win more of the audience share.
Yeah, and I think what both of you are doing is a huge step in that direction, because you both have big followings, but people don't know what to check into. They don't know what sources to trust. And I think your program is going to go a long way in educating and pointing people in the direction of who to follow, who you can trust.
Yes, which is super important. And I also think that a lot of those influencers, maybe more micro influencers that are influencing people at their state and local level, the People's Cabinet is going to be really important in telling them what are the things to focus on, giving them those talking points. The war room is going to be a place that they can look to and say, okay, what are, I know I want to yell the word truth on the internet, but like specifically, what should I say? I can't just actually go and scream truth. What are those truths that I need to yell? And that information is going to come from those daily briefings and the things that the People's Cabinet are putting out there. Like, we are going to equip you as a party with the things that you need, but we need you. We need you using your voice.
Exactly.
Virginia, do you know where those briefings are going to be?
Well, we're really trying to support Blue Sky as an alternative to X, but we're going to be on every channel.
Okay.
We're going to be on X. We're going to be on Instagram. We're going to be on Facebook, because we need to go where people are, not where we want them to be, because we're all on this journey together. And I'm going to be linking them in my Sunday newsletter. I do a newsletter every Sunday for people. There are, people of a certain generation that don't track, aren't on the internet like we are.
Right.
And so I'm going to have those links on my Sunday email just to make it easier for people to catch up on a Sunday with what happened during the week. And that's what we're hoping others will do, is being able to amplify those messages so it becomes, a bigger world for all of us to tap into, because we're going to be learning from people as we do this.
So if people are looking to find the People's Cabinet and the War Room, are those like Instagram accounts that are live? Are they running through the Democrats' accounts? I'm just trying to give our
they're running through the Democrats' accounts. And
okay.
Liz, is it DNC .org? What is it?
Yes. So I would say if you go to dnc.org, you can sign up for a bunch of newsletters on there, so you can receive the the daily briefings, and then follow the Democrats on everything and repost that account. And I think it's very important that we have both. So we talk about that the internet is personality based, not institution based. But what we need is for those personalities to be informed and synced on a relatively similar message. We're never going to get all of the internet, and especially, we are a big tent. We're never going to get everybody messaging exactly the same way.
Yeah. And then they can portray
facts.
them.
Yes.
In whatever way.
So to answer your question, you can find Democrats on everything. So it's at Democrats. And we took the D down and we put the donkey back, and he's kicking up his legs like he's ready for action.
Ooh,
we got a new little logo there.
I didn't know that.
Yeah,
Well,
you love the D though. You were very into those bags.
Well,
you liked the logo.
At the retreat, they gave us like the boathouse bags with the D on.
Yeah, she was like, "This is good branding."
I have mine right here. Hang on.
Yeah.
Let's see. It's clean branding. Like everything was
yes. We were at the bar at the hotel, and we had our bags that we had gotten when we checked in, and this couple in Florida, they were like, "What does the D stand for?" And we were in Florida, so we were like, "Oh no, like this could go sideways." And we're like, "It's the Democrats." And they were like, "We're from Boston. We're so happy you guys are here." And we're like, "Oh, thank God."
Yeah. They were. A lot of people, they wanted to chit chat about all of their thoughts. There are a lot of big feelings, but they were very positive. All of those people.
Yeah, I think people are just excited to see new innovations, whether they're coming from inside the DNC, outside of the DNC. People, it's hopeful. It gives people just like a kind of a breath of fresh air every time something new like this happens.
And I think the important theme that runs through that is Democrats are everywhere.
Yes.
Independents who think like us are everywhere.
Yes.
Republicans who do not like what's happening are everywhere. And by having the merch and talking about what's happening, you never know where you're going to find people.
Yes. Yeah. We got to be loud and proud. We got to celebrate our wins.
We got to win.
And we got to win. And we have to
keep Liz out of trouble, because, she really gets into conversations sometimes.
I get into trouble. We can't. Postcards. I'm legally not allowed to talk about postcards. I'm kidding. It's not illegal. Have I never told you about my postcard saga?
No.
For another day.
That'll be for another day. Offline. Yeah. But postcards are great. Just kidding.
Spitting through your teeth.
So, all right, let's get into talking about this week. I was thinking on the drive over here, I was like, I mean, I really would like to live through slower times where less happens, but it's a great time to have a podcast because we always have so much material. There is never a week where we're like, what should we talk about?
Yeah,
like,
no slow
it is
news weeks over
no
here.
slow news weeks. So let's start with what we are all fresh off of, the protests. You were out yesterday in Scranton, Pennsylvania.
In a
You had-
rainstorm. It was cold
Oh, was
and
it?
rainy.
Ooh. But it didn't deter you or your special guest, who we have a picture of. Pull up who you were shoulder to shoulder with as you marched into the fray. None other than our Speaker Emerita,
Our queen.
Nancy Pelosi. There she is.
What a great picture.
Look at you.
Yeah,
You
it
do
was a
look
great
cold.
day. Yeah, it was rainy and cold, and Nancy Pelosi arrived, and people swarmed around her. No one knew she was coming. It was
Oh,
a
really?
surprise.
I love
Yeah,
that.
she reached out. She had a close family friend. His grandson was getting married, and she came for the wedding and reached out to me, and we kept it quiet. There were 1,000 people for the rally, and the crowd just went wild, and the rain stopped just while she was there.
I love
And
that.
then-
I mean, her
and then,
makeup
of
looks
course-
amazing.
I know she looks
looks
freshly
great.
glammed.
Yeah. Cute.
She is
rain
wearing
jacket.
her fashion designer sneakers. She hung up the high heels after breaking her hip,
Oh.
and now wears sneakers, but they're beautiful sneakers.
Man.
I would expect nothing less.
Romance.
We also, so I was in Highland Park, Illinois, just a few minutes from where I live and grew up. I would say we had like 1,000 people. It was big.
Awesome.
Yeah. It was really big. My friend who was newly elected to township trustee spoke. She had her megaphone and she's Gen Z and was out there, and it was giving me so much hope. Amazing signs. So we'll throw up some of my favorite. I'll send these. Do we have some of them? I'll send you guys more too that we can put up. Okay.
That slogans were fabulous.
Yes.
Yeah. Very
Dump
creative.
Trump before it's too late. This one I liked. They're eating the checks. They're eating the balances.
Oh, that's good.
There was a lot of hands-off ones. Dear Canada, we hate Trump too. Like, I think that's an important message.
Well, one of my favorites is there are better cabinets at IKEA.
Oh yeah, I love that one.
That's a good one.
Does this ass with a picture to Donald Trump make my country look small? And there was another really good one that was like, hey, Trump, you fascist fuck, how's your golf game going? Hey, Trump, how's your golf game going, you fascist prick? I zoomed in on the lady who had that, and she was like posing, like making all these so yeah, some great Musk is ungrateful and despicable.
Our taxes
Make him rich. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean,
What do you think? The thread that weaves us all together is people are not happy with the direction that Trump is taking the country.
Yeah.
And we don't believe when, the Treasurer of the United States gets on the news and says, everybody hold in there and, just trust it's all going to work out. There is no plan.
There's no
It's one thing if he had said, bring all your factories to the United States and then this, and this are going to happen.
Yeah.
And this is how we're going to make it easy for you. I mean, it takes 6 to 10 years to move a factory and start it up.
Yeah. Let's get into this. Let's get into the tariffs. So my first question for you was, there's no plan here, correct? He does not have a
Correct.
master.
I think we're all watching the same, getting the same information. I'm surprised it was introduced with such chaos that they didn't then say, and this is how it's going to work.
Right.
I mean, he's the president of the United States.
it was
People elected
Liberation
to do a
Day,
job.
guys.
But I think that's a big part that's missing.
Yeah. So as our resident finance girly, can you give us a TLDR of what a tariff is?
Yes. So what a tariff is, a tax, put plainly. But to get more specific, it's a tax on goods that we import from other countries. So anything that's not made in the United States, not whole products, parts of products, like anything that comes across our border that is not originated in the United States is an import.
Mhm.
Economics 101.
Well-
oh, go ahead.
No, I was going to say, if I had to describe this to my grandchildren, I would say you go to a sandwich shop and you ask for a tuna sandwich and you give the restaurant owner $5. So you got a sandwich and he got $5, but there's a deficit there because he got the $5, but you're happy because you got the sandwich. So there really isn't a deficit, right?
Right.
Because there's no trade imbalance because you got the sandwich you ordered and wanted. Like Americans want to be able to buy whatever they want from wherever.
Yeah.
And there are so many things that we are not set up to manufacture in the United States. We may never be set up to manufacture in the United States. It might take 6 to 10 years. Alex Perlman, great liberal creator on Instagram, really funny background as a comedian. He did the example, he was holding a tangerine. He goes, this might be made in America, but the hose to water it is imported. The tractor equipment, when it breaks, is imported. The net that the bag goes in is imported. The light bulbs at the grocery store that it's sold in are imported. So because all of those things are factored into the price of a fucking tangerine, the tangerine, even though it's made in America, is going to go up. And as a person whose family manufactures in the United States, just tell us firsthand, is this good for you?
No. And, the market long decided, and much of it under Republican leadership, that the market should decide who's best, right? And so on the East Coast, most of the structural steel comes from Canada because they won that war. They won the competition of being the fastest, most efficient, and best price. Mm-hmm. So when I'm talking from Maine to Detroit, Michigan, they had the majority of the market. So, we worked with them closely on parts. Even if they used American steel, it was cut in Canada. Uh-huh. So the last time Trump did tariffs, there was an exclusion for this kind of work and fabrication. Mm. But yet, as of yet, no exclusions have been announced.
Well, and also the United States is largely a services economy. It's not a goods economy.
Good point.
And so obviously everyone's like, we don't have the warehouses for manufacturing. We also don't have people that are going to be willing to take manufacturing jobs because they'd rather make their own schedule and work for Uber Eats or DoorDash, right? And warehouse jobs don't pay as much as service jobs do, period. So that's actually bringing down the cost of real wages in the United States if we can ever even get ramped up in a manufacturing sense.
Yeah, those manufacturing jobs are going to take a long time to come here, and I don't think we have the workforce to support it. It's the same exact
idea of, well, we're deporting all these people that are here undocumented, but don't worry, we have a ton of Americans that want to work in a field when it's 100 degrees out in Florida. Like, we've been so conditioned to not have to do that kind of work, and it's not like all of a sudden overnight we're going to snap our fingers and Americans would be like, thank God. And by the way, when we were working on assembly lines, years and years and years ago, we were unionized. Labor unions were in full force. There was worker protections. And under a Trump administration, there's no way we're going to be able to put in place collective bargaining so that those manufacturers are protected. And so they'll just be paid for pennies on the dollar. And, everyone knows it's bad, but it's bad.
Yeah, he's bringing our economy to a screeching halt. But is there anything we can do, Virginia?
Absolutely.
Stop this.
I think that this past week is a great example. I hope that other electeds follow Cory Booker's lead and standing up and really being a leader. People were so touched by what he did in those 27 hours, or however long it was that he was there. I think it's everyone uniting and saying that we don't want this, that we are a democracy and what we are feeling, of what we want has to be taken under consideration. But the direct line is your members of Congress. Your members of Congress, everybody has one, no matter where you live. And especially the Republicans who are not speaking up at all, who are not, explaining this and showing up at town halls to their constituents. So I think the answer to your question, there's a lot we can do. And I think it's local. I think it's dealing with your electeds and asking them, to hear the people out of why they don't think this is a good idea.
Because Trump is doing this under the what is it called? Like
Emergency Powers Act, right?
So Congress could put a stop to that if they wanted to. So
right, and the United States Senate had 4 Republicans join with them. All the Democrats and 4 Republicans to do just that, but it takes the House.
Actually, in a weird turn of events, Politico reported yesterday that a Republican representative from Nebraska, Don Bacon, said he plans to introduce a companion bill to the bipartisan Senate legislation.
Great.
So that would be essentially everyone was saying, well, great, the Senate got 4 Republicans to pass this. The House will never take it on. But it does seem like whether it's the pressure from protests, whether it's the pressure of like what Cory Booker did and phone calls, it looks like we might actually see some movement on this in the House this week.
So
it's amazing. It's all been peaceful.
Yeah.
And that has to remain peaceful, that we want to lead by example, but showing up in numbers that, this isn't the direction that we want our country to take. People are very frightened about, the professor from Tufts being snatched up, or professors from, Columbia and other places, and due process not being followed.
Yeah. And so my message to our listeners and to those, our hope is always to be a place where political creators, whether they're small or large, can find inspiration and direction. And my call to action is put that pressure. Ken Martin talks a lot about this. Put that pressure on those purple Republicans. I know you want your Democratic leaders to be forceful and to be leaders and to honestly, you want them to wave a magic wand and fix this. You do. You want them to say, like Donald Trump says, I alone can fix this. I know I want that too. I want that white knight too. We don't have the power, and it's also just not realistic. But what we can do is find Republicans in purple district and put that pressure on them. So if you're a creator, make a list of all the purple districts in your state and put those phone numbers up and get people in the state calling those Republicans and being like, our economy is crashing. My parents' 401k, my 401k are like decimated. I'm scared about Medicaid. I'm scared that I am going to lose my own personal financial safety net and our government social safety net. And I am terrified for the direction of my life. Right. Do something as my member of Congress. Like, tell those stories, show not tell, and like shake them into action. And the people we need to pressure are Republicans. All the Democrats are going to vote for it. And what we need now is Congress to act and to stand up and stop him.
Well, and also everyone talks about how tariffs are a regressive tax, which means that as price of goods go up, the wealthy aren't going to be affected as much by paying, $1 per pound for bananas instead of 25 cents per pound for bananas, right? And then on top of that, you layer in, they're going to strip away Medicaid. They're going to strip away Medicare. They're going to strip away, food assistance. And so these people that aren't going to be able to afford buying groceries, then they're going to get hit again because they're not going to be able to even have food stamps anymore. And so that's not really being talked about. We're talking about the tariffs right now, but we're also not talking about the ramifications of them taking away $880 billion worth of funding. And that's going to, that's going to lead to really unthinkable things.
They're hitting us in from every direction. And what's interesting is we also always like to talk about, when we talk about current events, is we talk about how it's playing on the internet. And in particular, we like to look at how it's playing on the right-wing side of the internet. And I'll send you guys this graphic so we can throw it up. But it's basically this MAGA response where this guy who looks like he even voted MAGA is like, don't worry. You guys think he's playing checkers, but he's playing chess. Like, Donald Trump knows what he's doing. Like, this is all, there's a temporary setback right now, but like, he has a grand master plan. I'd like to say this directly to this man. No, he doesn't. He is not playing chess. Like,
he's playing golf.
He's playing.
You're right.
Yeah,
That's a good social media quote right there. There are also reports, Sammy from Bitches News posted this, that they miscalculated the formula that they use. So they reference the formula they use to calculate these tariffs. And if you go and do the math, they actually miscalculated it and they're off by a factor of 4. So not only is there no plan, they fucked up the plan they actually set out to do. Like it's so bad.
It's gross incompetence. I mean, it's like past gross incompetence at this point.
Yeah.
Well, I think we have to put our seatbelts on for the next few weeks. Buckle up because, and we can't get discouraged and we have to keep speaking up.
Yeah. We have to keep
because
fighting.
we don't know what's going to happen tomorrow when the market's open.
It's not going to be.
Yeah, I saw something that their Wall Street's trading desks are going to be fully staffed tonight when the futures market opens because it's not looking good.
Wow.
And the EU hasn't even announced their retaliatory measures yet.
Right.
Yeah, it's a really gargantuan problem, but I think we'll probably see some sort of reneging on it from the Trump administration. I don't think that Trump is so like all about his proudness.
Right.
Mhm.
And I think that.
Well, they are leading open negotiations. So hopefully
right.
that might take us closer.
Yeah. But also always what happens in these times in COVID, in the 2008 crash, all throughout history, when there are these times of economic shift, guess who gets richer? The already rich people, the ruling class. Guess who's hurt the most? The people on SNAP, the farmers, the people who are one paycheck away from
The
disaster.
hardworking people in the middle class.
Yeah. Basically everyone but the people at the tippity top.
Well, does it matter for them if they have to pay $1 per pound for bananas?
Yeah.
Like, they don't even go to the grocery store. It's their housekeepers that go, and they don't even look at their credit card bill. It's just an auto pay.
Oh my God. Do you love when Trump keeps talking about groceries? He keeps saying the word.
Term.
He's like this funny term because he's never gone grocery shopping.
What is it? Like, everyone should always know what the price of a gallon of milk is, right? Like, I wonder if a reporter, Caitlin Collins, should just ask Caroline Levitt, what's the price of a gallon of milk?
I don't even, I bet you Trump doesn't even know like the size, that doesn't even know what a gallon is. Like, doesn't know that milk comes in that. It's like if it doesn't come in a big gulp from McDonald's, he's not aware of the unit of measure. But on a lighter note, how about our big win in Wisconsin? Suck it, Elon.
That news broke around 9:30, 9:45. Somebody called it, and I was like, "Oh God, thank you. Now I can go to bed." Because we have to show that we can win.
Yeah.
But that seat in and of itself was so important.
Yeah. For fair maps, for
voting
rights. Yes. Yeah.
And the Republican Party made it about Trump.
Mm-hmm.
They made it about Western civilization.
Uh-huh.
Elon Musk was his spokesperson.
Right.
So we didn't say, "Oh, this is about him." They made it about themselves.
They made it about him.
They made it easy.
In Wisconsin, they're nonpartisan judges. So they're not technically Democrats or Republicans, right? So every time we talked about them, it was the liberal candidate and the conservative candidate. So, but they made it very much they positioned it as a support, or in this case, a referendum on Donald Trump, and Elon's involvement massively backfired. Every single county shifted left, and we won by 10 points. And it's huge. And in Florida, we cut those, the margins of victory that the GOP had in November, we cut them in half. And that it was a long shot. But I think that was pretty good. And it shows that where the pendulum is swinging in the right direction. I think we just need to come together and coalesce as a party. Another little tidbit of internet news is both Dave Portnoy and Joe Rogan publicly criticized the Trump administration this week.
I mean, it's all about their wallets.
Yeah.
Rogan
said that the deportation was wrong.
Yeah, he said, "I thought we measured twice and cut once."
Yeah.
How did you miss that the two of the people were legal?
Yeah. And had no criminal background. And to that audience.
He also spoke about his history of growing up on Medicaid.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah. I didn't know that.
It definitely feels gratifying to hear people like that, switch their tune, but they could just as easily go back the other direction when their wallet books go back up if they do. So while it's good to hear their like transient disappointment in the administration, no.
Well, I just think we have to meet this moment. Like, that's a chink in the armor right there with Portnoy and Rogan. We've got a bunch of momentum. Like, as I said with my very long basketball metaphor, this really is a moment. And when I say we have to meet the moment, it's not just Democratic officials. It's not just the 5 people that you sit up on the dais with. It's all of us. It is all of us. If you call yourself a Democrat, what are you doing this week to keep the momentum moving in a positive and forward direction? And I can tell you what not to do is to continue to criticize the party. I know sometimes we go back and forth on this, but like, guys, message received. We've got it. We're going to continue to innovate. We're going to continue to change. But now we're coming together. We are on a team. Our team called a timeout. Our star player hit a big 3. Like, let's go. Let's go win this. Let's keep this momentum into the gubernatorial elections in 25, into 26, and keeping the pressure on right now to make changes. Like, and we can stop him. We can slow him. We can start. And the DNC has a ton of legal
resources.
Exactly. It's like they announced this week like a bunch of legal cases that they're bringing against the Trump administration. Like, we're coming at them from all directions.
Yeah.
Well, I would say that this problem is bigger than the Democratic Party, and it is incumbent upon all Americans, no matter what your party registration, is to get involved. And the most important thing is pay attention. As the both of you were saying, people need to pay attention to what's actually happening, what's true and not true. Mm-hmm. And then they need to act and participate. That's how our country is designed. It only works if people step up and get involved, and you get the country that you work hard for. You know?
Everyone's got to stay locked in after the protests this week. And even if you say to yourself, I'm going to spend 10 minutes a day keeping up with the news. You don't need to be submersing yourself in the news like we do, because we might be slightly mentally ill, but you don't have to do that. You can just say 15 minutes a day, I'm gonna, listen to NPR's Up First podcast or Under the Desk News. Yeah. It doesn't have to be your entire personality. Hopefully, if you want it to be, come on over. We definitely would love your help. But just bites, little bite-sized pieces. And if it's anything like me, you'll then become obsessed, and then it just kind of takes over.
Yeah. And then find a way, you have all that rage or that fear from staying informed, then find a way. I, most of the time, don't feel rageful and fearful, because I feel like I'm doing everything I can. Right. The last time we spoke, you said, what are you most worried about and afraid of? And honestly, I hadn't really thought about it. It's
general fear.
Yeah. I was like, well, I guess bad economy. We could all lose our jobs. All of our savings are decimated. All my family's savings are. Yeah. I went down a dark path. But truly, before you ask me that, I don't sit and stew on it, because I'm I don't have time. I'm doing the things to try to fix this. I'm doing everything that I know that I can possibly do, given my abilities and talents. And if we all just can do that, you don't have time to stress. Don't worry.
Look how far you've come.
Yeah, Virginia, but don't worry, work.
Liz always tells me, she was Virginia always says, don't worry, work. And I've told that to basically everyone in my network. And they now are saying, don't worry, work. So I think we need to put that on a sweatshirt.
Yeah.
Right.
That could be your first book, Virginia.
Yeah. You could be my ghostwriter.
Yeah. I had to read it. It's the tough love from the Irish Catholic mother you always wanted and needed.
And then the dedication page will be to you.
Oh, thank you.
Because you're the ghostwriter.
I appreciate that. Likewise. Well, I can't thank you enough for being here. I can't thank you enough for everything.
Well, I appreciate it too. And we love our country.
Yes.
And every day I pray for our country, and I pray for these United States, because that's what makes up the country, is all the states, participating and feeling like they have a part in this.
Yeah, we got to take back the American flag.
Yes. Yeah.
Come up with a logo for that.
Right.
I know. We've been talking about it a little bit.
Yeah, we got to lean into that Ralph Lauren aesthetic.
Yeah.
I think that could be our key in with the liberals.
Yeah, for sure. During the DNC time, I was like, oh my God, I'm going to be able to wear red, white, and blue again. And like be excited about it. And it's really sad that that has been taken and commandeered from us. But I think it's on us to take it back. Yeah, it's our symbol of freedom and liberty and our unity. And, you know, that everybody that we fight for everybody in this country, no matter who they vote for. And I think that that's what separates us from them. And we have to like always remember that because it keeps our humanity. Beautiful. So with that,
my friends,
thank you for everything you've done for this party and this country and for me. And we love you. And
well, let's stay in touch. And hey, invite me back.
Yes, please come back. And thank you for staying on me to, you know, make this happen. Actually, really, Katina did it, but
thank you, Katina.
But I was telling her one day, I was like, "Hi, I have a call with Virginia, and she's going to ask me about a podcast." And Katina was like, I have some ideas. And
like, don't worry, my cousins actually have a podcasting studio. Yeah.
But the conversation initiated with me being like, shit, Virginia is going to be pissed if I haven't made progress.
We were about to call her Virginia, and Liz was like, I don't have good news for Virginia. She's going to get mad at me. And I was like, tell her we're starting a podcast.
We're making I got you. And I'm like, great. When I got on, I was like, I've got a whole plan. And then
I'm looking at my phone. Is this Liz?
Yeah. Yeah. Thanks for making that happen, and thanks for the push. So let's see what fresh hell this next week brings us. And thanks
Everybody
so much.
Take care of themselves.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. All right. Thank you. Bye. Bye.